So I'd like to welcome you to your meditation practice. Thank you so much for joining. It's lovely to see all of you. And for those of you in the Facebook Live universe as well, thank you so much for joining. So we're going to go through, again, the beginning is settling in, setting a motivation, and then also looking at the nature of the mind and some concentration. And then we're going to work on transforming happiness and suffering into the path as much as possible, and ending with just some basic relaxation of finding our way to our happy place, like that, if that's helpful, because I think a lot of people can use that right now. So please take a moment to settle yourself into a comfortable position. We've talked a lot about the meditation posture. Most of you are familiar with that. What's important is to have your spine as extended as possible, as if the back is straight. But you do your best to find comfort in the position. So you can absolutely sit in a chair to meditate. I would have your feet straight down on the floor, or place a cushion for your feet on if that's a better position. You can sit on a cushion in any cross-legged fashion or any fashion that keeps that spine extended as if the back is straight. Head is in a comfortable neutral position. You can lightly close your eyes, bringing the gaze inward. And as you do this, allow yourself a few deep breaths, really bringing that inhalation in and feeling positive energy coming in with the oxygen through all your systems, all the way down to a molecular level. So bathing those cells, molecules, with energy that it needs to function well. And upon an exhalation, releasing negative tendencies, releasing disease, confusion. So just allow yourself a few deep breaths. We will pause halfway through so you can adjust or stretch if you need to your position, but you can also slightly adjust as we're sitting here as well if you need to. Take a moment right now to think about the posture of your mind. How's your mind right now? You feeling spacious, calm, or distracted, agitated? Simply observe without any further judgment. We can shift any negative tendencies we find layering our mind by setting a good motivation. We can enhance positive experiences we're having in our mind by setting a good motivation. And you can use this motivation, reset and reestablish it anytime throughout your day. That's what's so easy and helpful for us. So, in this tradition, we're very focused on benefiting countless living beings, actually, all living beings, as a goal, in a sense. The best way we help that happen is by becoming a fully enlightened being, a Buddha, fully awake. Then we're completely empowered to do that, to benefit all living beings. So, if that's something that interests you, please feel free to include that in your motivation now. And at the very least, taking a moment to orient and direct your mind in a positive direction for our time together, as well as all the activities of the rest of your day. Please take a moment and set positive motivation. Let's clear out some of the more subtle energy channels in our system by doing the 9-round breathing. And Lama Yeshe style, we will begin with an exhalation. So if you'd like, please close off the right nostril as you exhale deeply through the left. As you inhale, close off the left nostril, inhaling deeply through the right. Imagine you're lessening anger and hatred from your mind stream 3 times. Our next round, we're going to be closing off the left nostril, exhaling deeply through the right. As you inhale, close off the right nostril, inhaling deeply through the left. Imagine you're lessening attachment and desire from your mind stream 3 times. Our last round, we're going to be exhaling deeply through both nostrils, inhaling deeply through both nostrils. We'll do that 3 times as well. And imagine you're lessening confusion and ignorance from your mind stream. And allow the mind now to rest on a normal, natural breath. Focus on that space just outside the nostrils where the air enters in and leaves the body. If it's helpful, place a tiny golden drop of light right there. That helps you to focus better. If you begin to lose your object and the mind is distracted by a sound or a thought or something else, brighten the intensity of the golden drop. Sometimes it pulls your awareness back. So either focusing on the breath or the tiny drop of light. Feel free, if it helps you to concentrate, to count your breaths. So an inhalation and an exhalation counts as one. See how far you can count before your mind wanders. If it does, simply observe that you're off the object. Gently bring it back to the breath. Begin counting again at one. Gently, this process, you try your best. 5 minutes. Just rest your mind for a moment and take it off the object. And stay in the same position if you'd like to just look around the room for 10 or 20 seconds. So when we're newer, it's helpful to do short segments. Keep the mind fresh and concentrated. If you're more experienced and you have good concentration, you continue. But you want to have the mind fresh and attracted to meditation, not dreading it because you can't concentrate. But it is normal that it's difficult for us to concentrate for more than a couple of seconds. That's how the mind is, and that's also an influence from our culture. So don't beat yourself up. We begin again. Begin again. Back on your object. The radiant golden drop of light here, right at the nostrils, or just focus on the breath. This space here where the air goes in and out of the nostrils. Keep all of your concentration focused there. Your mind will wander. If it wanders out after a sound, label and let it go. It's simply sound or hearing. That's all. Back to the breath or the golden drop. If you get mental energy distraction, a thought, an idea, your lists, what you need to do today, worries, fears, concerns, you're off over here. It's simply a thought or thinking. Back to the golden drop of light of the breath. Gently, you bring it back. You're trying your best. That's all you can do. Okay? 5 more minutes. Try your best. So, can you explore now what is it that knows the breath or the golden drop of light? This is more subtle. So, when I say to follow the breath or place your awareness or your mind on the breath or the golden drop of light, there's a space of awareness there that knows exactly what it is. Instead of focusing on the breath itself or the tiny golden drop of light, see if you can find that space of awareness and focus on that instead. One aspect of the nature of mind, one aspect of the nature of your mind. See if you can stare at that space and stay focused there. If it's difficult, simply go back to the breath. If you have thoughts and distractions arising, can you get a sense of where they come from? Can you find the place between the thoughts, between the mental experiences that are arising? And look at that, focus on that instead of the thoughts. Because that is that space of awareness. That is your mind. See if you can find that gap between the thoughts. Focus on that instead of the thoughts. And slowly bring yourself back to the space where you're sitting. Please relax. And when you're ready, slowly open your eyes. And before you shift your position or adjust, just notice for a moment your mind. Just notice how you're feeling. And then feel free if you need to stretch or shift your position, feel free. So we're going to be going into a different type of meditation, more analytical, where I will be guiding you through some things to think about in relation to Lojong, mind training. Welcome, Barry, and our Facebook audience. Lovely to have you with us again. This is from a beautiful, beautiful text from the third Drone Nimpeng Cheng Rinpoche, Turning Suffering and Happiness into Enlightenment. It's a very special Lojong text. Lojong is low as mind, Zhong training the mind, transforming the mind. This is a lot of the process of the type of Buddhism that we are studying. And this is a rarer text of the standard 8 verses text of Lojong and 7 verses of thought transformation. So I really love this text. We're gonna look at a few of these. How do we use suffering to train our minds, and how do we also use happiness? I find this really hugely transformative for us. So thank you for joining again. So just sitting comfortably, finding that comfortable meditation space for this part of the meditation. And lightly close your eyes. And as you settle the mind on the breath for a moment, just think about in your mind right now, as we know, many, many beings are suffering all over the planet. We know many of them as well. So yesterday I lost a dear friend, Elea Redel, who was living at our center in the south of France, Institut Badriogini. She passed away after a more than 30-year severe degenerative illness. So when you talk about suffering, there's many, many people on the planet suffering like that. We have many people individually on our prayer list we are praying for with extreme mental and physical suffering. There are ones we know, there are ones we don't know. How can we use this suffering to make it positive? How do we turn and fold this suffering into our path to make it useful for our reaching that fully awakened space? Why do we want to become a Buddha? Then we're unlimited in benefiting all living beings, and we can help all of them perfectly. So let's really never lose sight of that goal, to help all these living beings perfectly. Think about right now, one step, using suffering to properly take refuge. Please reflect right now. What are you taking refuge in when you suffer? When just you yourself suffer? Where are you going for relief, protection, distraction, entertainment. Please review for a moment. What do you do in the faces of that suffering? So we can seek support from friends and family, people we enjoy. We can seek support there. That one is one of the biggest refuges for people. They seek the company of family and close friends they trust, they feel safe with, that they know care about them. Are these beings enlightened? So, what sort of activities are you doing with them? Are they positive activities or do they take you away from your path? Think about it. Explore the temporary relief you get with these people. How does it ultimately fix your problem, though, and the deeper suffering you experience? Please explore that. So while you may get some temporary relief from talking with these people that you like, I just want to ask you, where is the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha in that relationship? Where is the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha in your heart and mind, in life in general? Are you in touch with them in a way? Thinking about them every day? Perhaps reciting a 4-line refuge bodhicitta prayer in the morning and in the evening 3 times? Is that thought there in your mind that there may be an ultimate protection from more suffering? Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. How often are you turning to them? And let's just think about life's activities. If you live in California and some other places, an earthquake could happen. What's on your mind as the building's shaking? Is it Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, and a quick reflection of their qualities that can really undo your suffering? Or is it something else? When you get news of a loved one dying, when you have your own negative health diagnosis, where does your mind go? Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, or somewhere else? To pain, disturbance, freak out, or one of the other coping mechanisms you may have thought of in the beginning? Just reflect for a moment. What percentage of your coping activities involve Buddha, Dharma, Sangha? And let's look at how to possibly involve Buddha, Dharma, Sangha more in our mind. It's great to study some of the texts about the qualities of the Buddha, the enlightened mind, the qualities of the Buddha. Let me layer a few here. The Buddha is free of all fear, free of all fear. And the reason the Buddha is free of all fear is the Buddha mind is omniscient. That means all knowing, as most of you know, all knowing. If you have an all knowing mind, an all knowing consciousness, because you know everything. You know what's coming, you know when you'll die, you know what fear is out there, you know what harm is out there. So you don't fear anything anymore. You're prepared in advance because you know. Incredible, vast insight. Just think of those two qualities, omniscience, and because of that, no fear. Think about how that would be in your life if you had those two qualities. Please reflect deeply. This is the bliss. This is the jewel of the Buddha mind. So if you're suffering and you're struggling and you read about a horrible atrocity on the planet, or you lose a loved one, or something worse happens to someone around you, some terrible things, can you think of the Buddha for a moment to uplift your mind and think, if I can continue to create positivity in my mind and lessen and remove all of the negativity, all the confusion, I can be a Buddha one day. Then I can really help these beings. And I won't have any suffering anymore. You can just think about those two qualities to enhance your everyday experience. And not only that, but what you end up reaching for are those two qualities to develop in yourself. Can you deeply reflect on that? Make a little commitment to yourself as well to focus a little bit more intently on the Buddha jewel. From now on, can I include that a little bit more prominently in my everyday experience? What about the Dharma? These are the teachings, the philosophy overall. On an ultimate level, the teachings on emptiness, the nature of reality, the nature of reality. That's what really frees you from suffering. That's the real refuge. Emptiness. Emptiness. So, what again can you explore in your life through study? Obviously, it would take some study and reading and attending classes when you can, even if they're on Zoom, about emptiness to understand that things do not concretely, solidly, independently exist from their own side. Not at all. But that's the way we engage with our reality. No wonder we suffer. No wonder we are confused. So, what do you need to do in your own life when suffering and a problem arises for you? Instead of getting hysterical, instead of lashing out at someone, instead of closing up on yourself, what if I think about the Dharma? Is this story accurate? So, problem arises. There's COVID on the planet, or somebody got COVID, or somebody broke into your house and stole something. Your friend has a cancer diagnosis, another friend died. Do we understand how all those situations arise? Not in a solidly, independently existing way unto themselves. Death is a natural part of life, for one. If somebody broke into your house and stole things, it's the purification of a karma, of stealing karma. That existed in your mind, is what Buddhism says. That existed in your mind to have your house broken into. So instead of the blame on the burglar and the blame on whoever left the door unlocked, or the blame for leaving the expensive thing out on the counter, that the blame doesn't get you anywhere. This is about taking responsibility when you take refuge in the Dharma. Dharma says everything comes from the mind. I'm not blaming myself either. I'm just taking responsibility. So if I'm going to drive this refuge into the Dharma, when an unfortunate circumstances arises, can I think before the normal other influences I've had? This is retraining the mind. What I mentioned in the beginning. This is training the mind in a better way to think. Can I reach for the Dharma instead as a refuge and think about karma? I must have created the cause for this to happen, for this unfortunate thing to happen. I'm purifying the cause now. I'm purifying something and experiencing this suffering. Things don't exist the way they appear to me. If I'm suffering from a negative story that I have going in my mind, please, can I check the story and realize that's simply my perspective? And until I have a direct perception of emptiness, I don't have the whole story. I'm not seeing the whole picture clearly. In a sense, it's distorted. But if I reach for the Dharma in my problem, it tells me my story's distorted. That's okay. I'm working on it. I'm working on it. Can you commit yourself right now, a little generation in your heart and your mind, to take more time to read about emptiness, to attend classes on emptiness, to study emptiness, and learn how to meditate effectively on emptiness, to develop a direct perception of emptiness. That's the real refuge in the Dharma, Jewel, ultimately. Just make that commitment to yourself if you can. And have a little scan of some everyday activities that you live through right now. When a problem arises, just imagine this past week or month or year. Look at the problem. Can you think about emptiness? In relation to your problem, does emptiness help shift this problem for you? Emptiness doesn't mean you walk away from problems and shirk responsibility. It means you take more responsibility. You have to participate and engage practically in life. But how would you like to do it? With more space of mind, with a little bit more accurate view? Well, that can help you participate more compassionately more realistically taking responsibility for what needs to happen. Let's think about the Sangha jewel. We're Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, we take refuge in. In your thinking, in your problem, who is the community you turn to for refuge? Think about who is it of your friends and family that may make up your Sangha. What do they say for you to do for your problem? Do they tell you if somebody wronged you to get them back? Are they drinking a lot of alcohol and doing a lot of recreational drugs to numb themselves out from the problem without facing it? What are their coping mechanisms that they influence you with? Who is the Sangha that you turn to? And what about ultimately Arya Sangha, those who've had a direct perception of emptiness, or those on a spiritual path? How are their coping mechanisms? What kind of influence do they have around you? Please reflect. Can you make a commitment to yourself right now to try to find the best resources of people to turn to? The best resources of people to turn to that will best support you and your practice. So again, using suffering to train in taking refuge. That's one way we can transform the suffering. Can you deepen your refuge? Can you deepen your refuge in what we're properly taking refuge in, what we're properly seeking protection from? Let's use our suffering and the suffering experiences we bear witness to help us deepen that. So in conclusion, let's dedicate, I'm going to share my screen, some dedication prayers. I'd like to invest whatever positive energy we've created from this meditation to help us again deepen the refuge and really transform suffering as much as we can. It's not easy, but we need to keep the mind buoyant, especially during these challenging times. Please join me in some dedication prayers. I would particularly like to dedicate, please let me know if you cannot see the screen, particularly like to dedicate to Alea Riddell, who passed away yesterday, Sidney Portier, Betty White, all the beings who have passed in the last 49 days, to immediately take a precious human rebirth where they can have happy, healthy bodies and minds that can pursue a path to enlightenment quickly so they can benefit all living beings, for all the other ill people on the planet. Oh, back to the first one here. Janju Senjo Rinpoche, Ma Ke Panam Ke Gyurchik, Ke Panyam Pa Me Pa Yi, Gone, gone do Belwar show. Let's read in English. May the precious supreme bodhicitta, not yet born, arise. May that arisen not decline, but increase more and more. However many sick sentient beings there are, may they quickly be freed from all sicknesses. May all the sicknesses, without exception, of transmigratory beings never occur again. I'd like to turn to this precious dedication with emptiness. Due to all the past, present, and future merits collected by me, the numberless Buddhas, and the numberless sentient beings, which are completely empty of existing from their own side, may I, who am completely empty of existing from my own side, achieve the state of full enlightenment, which is completely empty of existing from its own side, and lead all sentient beings who are completely empty of existing from their own side to that state which is completely empty of existing from its own side, by myself alone, who am completely empty of existing from my own side. I fully dedicate all these virtues to be able to train just like the hero Manjushri, who knows reality, and just like Samantabhadra as well. And lastly, for the long lives of our precious teachers, for His Holiness the Dalai Lama, the wish-granting, wish-fulfilling jewel, source of every single benefit and happiness in this world, to the incomparably kind Tenzin Gyatso, I beseech, may all your holy wishes be spontaneously fulfilled. For Lama Zopa Rinpoche, you who uphold the subduer's moral way, who serve as the bountiful bearer of all, sustaining, preserving, and spreading Manjunath's victorious doctrine, who masterfully accomplished magnificent prayers honoring the three sublime ones, Savior of myself and others, your disciples, please, please live long. And just lastly, before we part, for those of you in the Zoom room, feel free to open your microphones, but if anyone has any particular, maybe one question about meditation, anything confusing, anything that's been difficult, feel free to ask. Catherine.
Actually, it's just to ask you to please repeat the name of that text again, the mind training text. I want to write it down, and I imagine others may want to as well.
Is turning suffering and happiness into enlightenment. And I will keep doing some from this because we just each topic, there's different points and each one can take the whole meditation. It's a really beautiful text. Turning suffering and happiness into enlightenment is the root text.
Thank you.
By Jigme Tempe Nima, the third Donim Chen Rinpoche. It's 14 pages long, Jigme Tempe Nima. So there's a question on Zoom, what is Mahamudra? That's a much longer, more than we have time for. It's the emptiness of the mind. It means great seal, but that's a whole other teaching that I'm sorry, I don't have the time to explain all of that right now. Okay, thank you so much. And yes, Ed, sorry, Ed, please.
If one begins a meditation with a good motive, and during the course of the meditation, the mind goes off, and instead of meditating on what you're supposed to be meditating on, your mind goes somewhere, let's say someplace non-virtuous. Now you bring it back. Does that actually constitute accumulation of negative karma when your mind wanders to something non-virtuous?
I mean, as long as we don't have a direct perception of emptiness, we are continually creating negative karma, whether we're meditating or not. But again, we have to start somewhere. We have to start somewhere. So this is the way we train, and we start doing the concentration to train ourselves. And over time, we have to keep at it. We have to keep at it. We also have to build consistency. And we're very impatient as Westerners. But it does make a difference. If you look back at your mind, and Ed, you've been at this for a while. If you look back a year, if you look back 5 years, you see a difference in your mind, right? A positive difference. Wouldn't you say?
little bit better than nothing, as His Holiness would say.
So we just keep making those strides. But I think when the mind goes off, it just creates a habit of distraction.
Mhm.
It's normal, which we all have a lot of, right?
Thank you.
And Samantha and Patrick, I wonder if when we're finished, can you send me an email? I just wanted to be in touch. If you can send an email to me at info@amymiller.com. So I could have your email for a second. That would be great. Samantha, please.
I'm just wondering if you have any advice. I live with 3 cats and, you know, they hear the voice coming out of my computer. Sometimes they actually get on top of the keys and make noise. And I do notice that they settle down when I settle down, but they can be disruptive. And is there a way I can integrate their presence into my meditation practice? Because they're there.
Yeah, I had 3 cats when I lived at Vajrapani, and they liked when I meditate. They would sit around me, one on each side and one behind me. Slowly, what I would do with animals is get them out of the room and shut the door. I mean, it's really simple. It's like if they distract, I mean, cats especially love to get on the computer, and cats seem to know when we're at Milarepa Center, we had 2 cats, and you never see them until the meditation starts, and then they're all over everybody, distracting. And so I would just, can you put them in another room or meditate in a space where you just shut the door and let them deal with it? And
Yeah, my favorite meditation space right now where I could shut the door is not getting good Wi-Fi. So I need to work on that.
okay, yeah, because it's real easy with animals. You just shut the door.
Yeah.
I'm living with 2 animals right now, and the dog wanted to be in here, but I know that then the dog will want to get out and and I just said to the dog, you need to be on the other side of the door, and the dog's fine. The dog gets used to it. And so you can train your animals that when the door is shut, you're not going to answer their scratches or whatever, and you do your best. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining. Lovely to see all of you.
Thank you, Amy. Ciao.
Hope to see you next week. And if you're not in the Tuesday night class, I am doing Tuesday night class. You can jump in on the Roadmap to Happiness. And you can find that at amymiller.com, the link to register. Thank you so much.
Namaste.
Please take care.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.